Welcome to Design by Geeks. My name is Marissa. Today we're going to be sewing these in the hoop tooth pillow designs. These are really cute and you can stick a lost tooth in the pocket. It comes in two versions, the 5x7 rectangle or the square 4x4. Hoop your stabilizer. You'll want to use tearaway or water-soluble stabilizer for this project. Stitch design step 1 onto the stabilizer. This is your placement stitch and it's going to show you where you're going to want to put your fabric for the front of the pillow. You can use any fabric you like, and this is a great design for using scrap fabric since all the pieces are really small. Place your front pillow fabric on top of the placement stitches and you're going to put that pretty side up. Your fabric should be at least a 1/4 inch larger than the placement stitch all the way around, and if you like you can use a bit of adhesive to keep your fabric in place. I'm using a sticky stabilizer. Stitch the next step of the design, which is a tack down stitch that's going to hold that front fabric in place. The next step of the design is a placement stitch, which is going to be for your tooth applique fabric. That's going to show you where to put the fabric for your tooth. Place your tooth fabric face up on top of the tooth placement stitch. Make sure that your fabric is at least a 1/4 inch larger all the way around. You can use a little bit of adhesive, pins, or tape to keep the tooth fabric in place. Then take your hoop and put it back on your machine. Stitch the next step of the design, which is going to hold your tooth fabric in place. While keeping everything in the hoop, trim the tooth fabric as close as possible around the tack down stitch, being careful not to cut the pillow fabric. You can go ahead and remove your pins or tape now. I can't really do this on camera, so I'm going to show you what it looks like after it's been cut. And here's what it looks like after I've trimmed the fabric. Notice how close I've gotten to the stitch lines. The closer you get, the better this project is going to turn out. Stitch the next step of the design, which is going to do a satin outline around the tooth. That's going to help cover up those raw edges. The underlay is going to really help cover that up. And I've got this sped up because this part takes kind of a while, but you can see that it's covering up around the edge of the tooth. And here it is, finishing up the satin stitch. The next step of the design will stitch out the face. If I wanted to, I could have changed the thread color here, but I'm stitching it in the same color as the satin outline. The next step of the design is a placement stitch for the tooth pocket. The placement stitch is going to show you where to put your pocket. You're going to fold your pocket fabric down about 2 inches with the pretty sides out, and you might want to iron that to hold the crease. Make sure that your pocket fabric is at least a 1/4 inch wider and taller than the pocket placement stitch. You're going to line that top folded edge with the top line of the placement stitch. Use pins or tape to keep your pocket fabric in place. Stitch the next step of your design, which is going to tack down your pocket fabric. Remove your pins or tape, and then you're going to trim around that stitch line as close to the stitch line as possible, similar to what we did with the tooth. Make sure when you're trimming you don't trim the top, that you only trim around the sides and bottom. Stitch the next step of the design, which is going to do a satin outline around 3 of the sides of the pocket. That's going to cover up your raw edges, but leave the top open. If you want to add your own design or personalization, you can add that now. Just make sure you don't stitch on top of the pocket. Next, you're going to place your back fabric. If your fabric is printed, place it pretty side down. Make sure that your back fabric is at least as big as your front fabric. Use pins or tape to keep it in place. I'm making mine a little bit larger than the front fabric because I'm going to rely on that sticky stabilizer to keep it in place. Place your hoop back on your machine and stitch the last step of the design. This is a finishing step that is going to stitch an outline around the entire design but leave a small hole for turning. Take everything out of your hoop and then remove your stabilizer. Next, you're going to trim the corners. You can also trim around the outside if the fabric is too large. Turn the pillow right side out using the turning hole at the bottom. Iron the pillow if needed, and then using the hole at the bottom, you are going to stuff your pillow as much as you want that stuffed. It's up to you how fluffy you want your pillow to be. Next, you're going to close the hole at the bottom. You can either hand sew that closed, you can top stitch all the way around, or you could use something like hem tape to close that. And here's what both versions look like all done. You can stick a little tooth in the pocket. Thank you so much for sewing with us today. See you next time. We hope you liked this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe.